Great to see you.
Good to see you.
And welcome everyone to Wake Up Wednesdays.
Welcome. Here we
Yeah.
are.
So today I thought that we could open up how mythology or myth is really alive and present in our worlds all the time, and is actually really a tool when we bring our consciousness to those stories and how they're living through us.
Absolutely. I know that we're going through this in our sister circle this month, and it was so powerful and eye-opening and amazing to see how, that these mythologies are really being expressed through our human experience.
Right. And in so many different ways, the myth really helps with the symbolism, right?
Right.
So it's like the same story you might relate to one character, or not even a character. Sometimes it's just the symbolic value of what something might represent. Like, for example, the one that we were just working on, the big love story of Eros and Psyche, and how there was all these different parts and pieces. Like there's a point where there's a gas lantern involved, and it splashes, and the light, and so every one of these components represents different pieces of how a myth might be living through us.
Right. And then also everyone's perception of each piece of the story is also really profound, because it is all symbolism. So in symbolism, it's really your own interpretation of it, which makes it even more magical, because it's not so rigid and, oh, this is the way it has to be. It's really how it's being moved and expressed through your own experience of life. And that's kind of how you internalize and perceive the myth to be.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting when we did circle. And for any woman that's listening to this that's in the Orange County area, we're going to have one this Sunday in San Clemente at 5:30. And we're going to be diving actually into the myth of Eros and Psyche. But I know that Nicole, didn't you think it was interesting how at some point a lot of the women were getting really like riled up because of the myth, the story alone, because we were doing storytelling? What would you say some of the emotions were that it kind of awoke?
Oh gosh, it was like a whole spectrum. I think frustration, a little bit of anger even. Just this sort of like what their interpretation of it is what brought the anger up, but I think was also eye-opening in the sense of of what it means to be in a love story, in your own love story, right? And how these emotions are present in our human experience of love.
Completely. And it was the metaphorical piece at the end, after they had moved through all that energy. It was so interesting, because actually that was the way back to that symbol, right? It was like they were taking it even more literal, and then that was an awakening of like this frustration. And yet the metaphor really had to do with one's own, like you were saying, relationship of self-love in a way, or self.
Right. Yeah, but then there was also some on the other side of the anger and frustration, some interpretations were like very eye-opening and very, it was like, oh, I get it. Like, I'm in charge of where I navigate my life, and I'm in charge of the love story that I create. And this actually, the myth is actually reminding me of the deep healing process that I've either gone through or that I need to get through to get to the other side, which is more connected to self, right? Always.
Yes, it's so perfect actually that you said that, because what I wanted to actually bring forward is, as humans, we have this really deep need to make meaning, and the myths are just these stories that have been told over and over and over again. Like when we went again, just because that's the fresh one. And I don't know, we talked about how sometimes they can feel really complicated because there's so many elements and pieces that are moving with myth. But um, with the most recent one, that love story, it's just like the meaning, making the meaning around the myth in our lives and being able to see how we're able to use these myths because they're stories that have been lived for so many years. Oh, the I had lost track, and I know you knew. But
I was
what I
about to
wanted
pull
to
you
talk
back.
about,
I was like, she's gonna get it. I'm gonna get her back if she doesn't, though.
well, it was Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
You know, and how that stories of Eros and Psyche was told in Beauty and the Beast, and so many other examples of like the female falling in love with the monster,
Mm-hmm.
the invisible monster boyfriend, or a monster, or I was trying to think of some of the other words. But it's in all the movies, just like the hero's journey, you know?
Right, and I think also, and even the myth that we're telling in our sister circles right now of Eros and Psyche, it's more than just a love story. I mean, my interpretation was like all that was being expressed was what we experience, right? Jealousy, betrayal, loneliness, desire
Yeah.
to connect,
Right.
being shamed for your looks, being excluded because of your beauty, like all of these things that were happening in the story. It's just beautifully told because it kind of gets you out of your human experience and your human logical way of thinking, and it's just this like it's just like this imagination realm that you can drop into, which I think makes it easier to connect to these parts of yourself that might not be so easy to look at, like the shadow sides of jealousy or betrayal and things like that. But it also had all these really beautiful sides to the story of again, connection to self, of taking risks for love in any capacity, whether love for yourself or for someone else, going into the underworld, into the depths to discover who you really are. You know what I mean? There's all these layers within a myth, and it's like if you can just start to slowly unravel them and unpack them, so much is presented within a myth, and then it's just a beautiful way to integrate that into our human experience.
Absolutely. And I pulled up the metaphor because I wanted to actually, because I just felt like we really need to.
Yeah.
But so I had written here, okay, so Psyche represents the human soul. And this entire story of Eros and Psyche, it's a metaphor for the union of love and the human soul, and how people start, whoops, sorry, I started to read the wrong line. I'm sorry, the union of love and the human soul, and how it gives birth to happiness, which was kind of like the representation of the happy ending.
Yep.
The end of that. We hope that all of the women are so like excited about coming on Sunday and getting all the in-betweens because it's such a good story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and I was surprised even in the way that I was interpreting it, because I had thought I was going to go one way, and then you hear the story and something's triggered inside of you or awakened inside of you. And that's the other thing about myth is like each time you hear the same myth, the same story, or you read the same story, you're going to perceive the symbolism in a different way. Like,
yeah,
it's just really depends on what's happening in your life. That's why these mythologies can be used for healing practices and healing purposes, to not only stand self, but to understand others' behavior,
Absolutely. I mean, Joseph Campbell is kind of like the father, and he, he's just written so much on this topic. And I love that I was introduced to him through like depth psychology, because like just exactly what you were saying, the myth gives us a way to kind of integrate what's in the unconscious, because we're a part of these collective stories that are told over and over and over again. And a lot of times science has kind of circumvented or said, you know, these things that you can't really, these things that are more in the realm of fairy tales and not research based and not science based, like they don't have merit. And it
Yeah.
feels like right now, actually, there is science that's showing that they do, but there's also a lot of healing that's done, you know, in that space that's liminal and doesn't always have science there to explain it, the mystery, you know?
Right. I mean, we've lost touch with the mystery and the unknown in the imaginational realm.
Yeah.
And really, science and spirituality can't be separated. Like they're the polarities of each other, so they complement each other. They can't actually exist without one another. And when we can start to understand this, then we can start to integrate science-based information along with these other spiritual, mysterious practices, you know?
Absolutely. You know, it's like I was thinking about it when, you know, I was just feeling into our talk today, and I was just feeling into how what we're talking about in Wake Up Wednesdays really is this. It's like bringing forward, bringing consciousness to these stories in a way that are living inside of us, that are living through us in different ways, and then using those to be able to deepen our meaning and our purpose when we wake up every day, because that's like the most important thing as humans, is to have some purpose, have some meaning, and the stories really will breathe the life of it into you, like the hero's journey, any kind of metaphor, myth, fairy tales.
And I think the hero's journey and the heroine's journey is being told through mythology. Like it's the perfect story for it to understand the hero's journey and the heroine's journey that we all go through. And we spoke about the hero and the heroine's journey a few Wake Up Wednesdays back. But you know, ultimately both journeys are a return to self or a return to home. Just they're just going in a different they're going on a different journey. They're going through different patterns, but they ultimately are all a return back to home. But in order to do that, it's like you have to kind of go over all these obstacles and these hurdles and these, you know, you have to meet your demons and your dragons, and you learn about yourself, and then you realize, oh, okay, I'm actually, everything that I was looking for outside is actually right here within me if I just took the time to explore it and get curious.
Yeah, and I just want to put out there, like, so just a little personal share of my experience with diving into that myth. I was a little, honestly, like nervous to do it, because my experience with a lot of myths is I don't understand them. I don't have this like experience. Sometimes people say that they do, and then I'm confused and I feel like, what's wrong? Why can't I understand it?
They're so complex.
And so it was really nice to hear that other people also feel that way sometimes. But in that experience of just trying to understand that myth, just for the simple fact that we were doing it in circle, it was like I had to go over it, and I had to have it told in different ways. So with today's technology, YouTube Health, I've actually taken a whole quarter on this myth in particular, Amor and Psyche. So I had already had that kind of brewing in the background, which helped, I think, get me to that place where by the time we got to circle, like there was this feeling of an embodiment of the myth, you know, that, I just wanted to say part of it was just trying to feel into, okay, what part of this story right now do I have some spark with, you know, and where do I feel it? And just really doing that inner work and inner questioning. So if somebody is interested in kind of exploring myth, I just wanted to say, pick one, take it slow. Peel it away, like Nicole was saying, one layer at a time, and give it a little time and patience. And you'll actually see it's really almost like surreal when you really
Yeah.
and feel that, like, wow, it's like literally living in me.
Yeah, it really is. And then it just is so exciting. You know, it just kind of takes you out of the mundane, like day to day shit that we're like just moving through and going through. You know,
Right.
it just makes it that much more exciting. And you know, it's like
I
it's
just
a fairy tale, but and also like there's reality to that. You know what I mean? So it just kind of keeps you in reality, but with a little fairy tale flair.
So I just want to share this as we wrap it up. There was actually a myth that, like, when I hear the word fairy tale, it doesn't, like, this myth is like rough, and it's called Inanna, and it's
Ah,
uh-huh. And so anyway, that was another course. We were spending a whole like quarter on Inanna, and we would reenact the myth, okay, in the classroom. And there's this one part in that myth where one of the characters chokes. I can't remember. Remember, I already told you.
oh yeah, yeah. But this is a good story.
Yeah. And so while they're reenacting it, somehow the girl that's that character starts choking on the little M&M or whatever they threw at her for food. And literally somebody had to give her a Heimlich, okay? So that's what happened in the room. That weekend, I came home, and all I was looking forward to was being able to, like, land, at my
Yeah.
house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like from the time I left campus to the next morning, I felt like I was a Nana going down into the underworld, being stripped, and literally even down to, like, my car got towed and all my clothes were in my car, being stripped down to nothing.
Oh my goodness.
It was so, like, I don't even know. I mean, it was so undeniable, like, its presence, and yet it was so, like, surreal, because it's this story, right? And it's this book, and we're just reading it, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like, I literally feel like I'm exactly where she was in this particular place.
Yeah, so I guess rather than it, claiming it as a fairy tale, it's more explained as just stories that we are reenacting like we are the actors and the actresses of these mythological stories.
Yeah. And they're all swirling. I think that's the other thing is, like, it's so like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a dream, things don't make sense. Things are swirling. You wake up and,
Yes.
And
you're like trying to pick apart the symbolism, and you're like, well, what did this mean? What did that mean? That's exactly what it is.
And the myths are like the same. They have that dreamy essence.
Yeah, absolutely. So fun. Yeah, I would definitely encourage whoever's listening or interested to choose one, myth that speaks to you and see how it relates to your life and how you're embodying it and how it's being expressed through you, and just like spend a little time with it, uncovering it and peeling back the layers and learning more about it, because ultimately it's just another practice, another way to get to know and become more aware of yourself.
And I want to actually add, or do it with a friend or with a group of people, because I found it so powerful to hear every time we do the circle and we go through this myth. I mean, I can't wait to do it again on Sunday, but just to hear everybody's, like, perspectives, like ways that I would have never thought.
So fun to hear everyone's perspective, and just to also, it really gives our minds clarity that, like, gosh, everyone perceives and is experiencing this world in such a different way, and all of it's so beautiful and all of it's so perfect and all of it is truth, right?
Right.
Yeah, come experience the myth of Eros and Psyche on Sunday, January the 21st at 5:30 in San Clemente, California.
If you go to my bio, there's a link. You can just click it, save your spot. I think we have a few spots left, but we're starting to get,
starting to fill up. Awesome, as we should be.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Well, that was so fun.
Yeah.
You. Miss
Good
you.
to see you too. Miss you too.
I'll see you on Sunday. Much love to everyone that hopped on today, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Have the best day ever, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Whoop. Hi, everybody. It's Lisa and
Nicole.
And it's Wake Up Wednesdays. It's time to wake up, Nicole. What do you think?
It's time to wake up. Wake Up Wednesdays, where we learn to stay awake in our waking dream, bringing our unconscious patterns to our conscious reality so that we can show up in the best ways possible.
Yeah. And so, all that.
All of that.
So today we are going to actually dive into the realm of joy and happiness. Some of these high vibrational emotions that a lot of people feel around the holidays and sometimes don't feel around the holidays.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. And what kind of opened it up was I was sharing with Nicole how a year and a half ago when I was working at hospice, I would do these I Rest Yoga Nidras they had a particular house where people that were in transition would be there and their families would be there. And so I'd be offering this to the staff as well as any family members. And I remember this woman came up to me afterwards because there's a connection to the experience of joy in that particular IRAS.
Yeah.
And she said to me, you really made me think, I can't remember the last time I felt joy. It was so long ago because, somewhere in the meditation it says, think about a memory or a time, right?
Yeah. Right. Joy comes up a lot in the IREST practice. So I know that that word joy is constantly being interwoven in that practice. So that would certainly ignite that thought of when is the last time I felt joy? And I think around this time of year, I think we're all kind of being asked that or feeling, especially right now, obviously with everything going on in the world, not just around the holidays, but just on top of the holidays, everything that's going on, we're wondering, when was the last time I actually felt true joy?
And so the cool thing about us as human beings is when we're awake and when we're conscious, we can actually focus our attention. And we can simply even drop into a memory of when we had joy. And we can actually start to feel joy and reacquaint ourselves to what it feels like. But what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah. I think first bringing into the awareness of what is robbing our joy.
Right.
Who is robbing? What part of our being is robbing our joy or taking our joy away from us?
Yeah.
I mean, that part of us certainly needs attention, right?
Yeah.
But it's that part of us that is robbing us, and we're unconscious of it because it's that inner little gremlin that we're not really willing to face, right?
Yeah, so how it showed up, it actually showed up for me. So Nicole and I, we've known each other for a while. This isn't a new relationship. And
it's
Nicole,
actually maybe eons long.
Right, well, lifetimes. But this one right here is the holiday.
I love it.
It's everything about Thanksgiving and Halloween and Christmas and decorating.
Yeah,
and,
for sure Christmas.
And then her mom, can we just give your mom a plug here?
Well, I come from a family that really celebrates Christmas in a very big way. It's an Italian, New York Christmas style family, and so we go all out. Our Christmas is on our Christmas lights are on the news every year, and it's just kind of a big deal. So
it's huge. I saw her mom on the news. I'm like, Nicole, the house, it was on the news. She's like, yeah. I mean, we've been doing that
every
for
year.
years.
She's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
So anyway, so she's always been that. And how would you describe me around the holidays, Nicole?
I want to say Grinch-like. You just kind of go into your shell and you're like, blah, I don't wanna.
I don't want to play.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's this little, as you called him or her, the inner Scrooge, and not really wanting to participate in all the festivities for whatever reason. Not really sure. We don't know where it's coming from.
Right, and we don't need to overanalyze it, but I recently had an experience where this man I absolutely love that's come into our family recently really loves around the holidays to go to the mall. And he loves the lights and the trees and the people, you know, and I don't like to do that. Like, in fact, so it took everything in me to go and check it out. And it was just, I really witnessed my inner Scrooge. Like, I witnessed, and what brought the illumination of it forward was his joy and excitement. And I was like, why would I not allow that in? Like, why am I sitting here just kind of like this? Like, I'm going to go, but I'm just going for him.
Yeah, right,
you know, kind of a thing.
I'm being a good human by doing this for someone else. And that's the only reason why I'm going, so, ha!
But here was, like, the thing about that. So I've been doing these, I partner with Access Elite, and I do these, like, presentations every week, and we're going into a new year, new energy, so, of course, I've been talking about goal creating. And the first session of this 4-session series was all about the law of attraction. The law of manifestation.
Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of what I talk about when I talk about that is how our emotions are so linked to things that have happened in our past, right? So clearly there's probably something in the past.
Yeah.
And then we feel these feelings, and we're putting that out there like a magnet. And really what we're doing is we're taking our past and we're throwing it into our future.
Yeah.
And then we're feeling into that.
Yeah.
And then we're actually creating that and more of that.
Well, we believe that whatever is happening in that moment is happening in that present moment, meaning, oh, I'm getting triggered because of this very moment, but it's not. You're getting triggered from something way back in the past, and it's unconscious, right? So this is where we start to bring the unconscious into our conscious reality. Why am I actually being triggered? Oh, because this feeling brings up this from the past. And so you're right. So that inner Scrooge in you, something is coming from the past, and that's why you're bringing it into this present moment. And then from that, if we're talking about law of attraction, when you're bringing that into the present, you're emanating unconsciously. Even though you have a conscious intention, you're emanating unconsciously the inner Scrooge or whatever it is, that is being projected into the future unconsciously.
100%.
Yeah.
So what was cool about being able to notice it in that moment, and really what helped was that I was talking about it. Here I am talking about it. And how do we turn that on? The law of attraction. And then I was able to catch it.
What a beautiful catch.
In the moment, I was able to, like, just allow myself to have a different experience. And maybe allow myself to enjoy the lights and to enjoy the people. Yeah. And you know what else?
It's so fun, Lisa.
I really enjoyed were the discounts that are at the mall right now. Like, I'm not a mall shopper at all.
Same.
In fact, I made a bunch of Christmas gifts this year, but they're almost paying you to take things out of the store. It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah.
And also, that's the way to save some dime this year.
So there's some joy in that, in going to the mall and saving some pennies. So anyway, I really love how you tied in the unconscious law of attraction, really, right? Because that's a huge part in why we can't create what we want to create or manifest what we want to manifest, because we're unconsciously emanating something different than what we consciously want. And so the question is...
actually, hold on. It's not... No, we don't want to just focus on what we want. We actually have to focus on it already being here right now.
Yeah.
And so that was because I was doing the research, and I just was like, oh my gosh, like there's so many ways that I've done this recipe over the years.
Yeah, same one over and over, yeah.
Wrong. Done it wrong, because I keep focusing on what I want and the gap rather than actually embodying it. Anyway, it was just this big, like, aha.
Right. But I think the biggest thing here is becoming conscious of your inner Scrooge. Becoming conscious of that little gremlin inside that is emanating something different than what you're trying to embody or what your desire is to embody.
And I totally, actually, the last piece of that story, so we came home that night, and I don't even think I told you this. I never even watch TV, but I have this TV now because of whatever. I have a TV. The one station, okay, the only one I could really like tolerate was Christmas movies, and it was like The Grinch.
You watched Christmas movies?
Yeah.
Wow.
I did. We can watch them together.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Did you love The Grinch?
So The Grinch, I actually, like, seriously, I felt like The Grinch that night, and I cried a little bit. I did.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of what inspired this whole thing, because it made me realize, like, unconsciously where I'm probably really limiting my ability to feel joy. And just allowing, like, giving myself permission for whatever reason. I don't need to analyze the why, but
right. Yeah, I don't know that that's so important.
No,
but it's just it's really the awareness that's important, because then you can tend to that part of your being, and then you could know that, okay, this might be why I'm attracting X, Y, and Z into my life. You know. Yeah. So I guess a little bit of the why, but not in the context that you're saying.
Yeah, so we wanted to really bring it forward and also encourage you to maybe ask yourself, like, where are you limiting unconsciously?
Where are you limiting joy, right?
Limiting joy. Joy, happiness, excitement. These are, I think, emotions that when we were younger, it was really a lot easier to connect to these things. Like, when we think around, I don't know, everyone's experience is different, but, you know, we weren't religious. Like, we didn't celebrate Christmas growing up because it was this very different, right? I come from a different kind of family, but we did celebrate. Yeah. And there was joy. And I do remember being excited about getting up and going to the tree and just the tradition and the ritual and the connection of it all, and the spirit of it all. And somewhere, though, along the line, and we've even talked about this, I lost a connection to that spirit.
The Christmas spirit.
Yeah, the Christmas spirit, the Halloween spirit, the Thanksgiving spirit. Yeah,
so the question is, where are you limiting yourself, or where are we limiting ourselves around joy in different areas of our life, around celebration, around holidays, around relationships, around our health, around our body. So if we think about all those different areas in our life, in what way are we robbing ourselves of our own joy? And the next question would be, are you willing to meet the unconscious inner Scrooge so that you can become more aware of how and why this little part of you is robbing you of your joy?
And I don't want to, like, for me, it felt like a really big part of me in that moment. And I think that's what happens sometimes. We get triggered and our emotions get triggered. And so in that moment, I was sharing with you earlier, I was aware of it now, right? I'm like, oh, here's this thing that I didn't know existed. Call it the inner Scrooge, the Grinch, whatever. But I couldn't let it go. Yeah. Like, I was super aware, and I was super... like, it felt super sticky, you know?
Well, it's, you know, just because you become aware of it doesn't mean it's just going to go in that moment. You know what I mean? It's been so ingrained in your being. So it's, you know, it lives in you. It's a part of you. Right.
But you know what's interesting, like, as we're talking about it, I also feel a lot of space around it because I've been through this process of naming it, noticing it, dancing with it in a way. And so now there's like
there's more acceptance of it.
Yeah, it's okay. It got its chance to say and do what it needed to, and now there's actually space. Yeah. There's a space.
Ultimately, right, it needs to be expressed in some way or the other. And when it can be expressed, there can be more spaciousness around it, more acceptance, more love, more tenderness, I think, around those parts of ourselves that ultimately are parts of our shadows, right? Yeah. Inner Scrooge, the shadow.
Yeah, so we hope that this might have brought forward just a curiosity inside of you of like, when was the last time I felt joy? Hopefully it was just this morning, right? Like, or just before you came on, or you're feeling it right now. But if it's something that maybe feels distant, happiness, excitement, joy, hope. Maybe it's something that unconsciously has been kind of pushed away, where it's you're limited in your ability to work with those positive emotions. And how can you create the space to let the joy back in?
I guess we're right at time.
Yeah, right on time.
Yeah. Well, we hope, yes, that this was helpful for you. And I think we'd like to leave it with, just pondering those questions and really noticing in the moments that you're losing that sense of joy. Not to say that it's not okay, right? Because we do want to feel the whole spectrum of emotions, but just noticing when that's happening. We were talking before this, like for me, I notice that I lose my joy when I'm in a situation where I'm feeling threatened or not safe. And so I immediately, Lisa called me the porcupine. Is that it?
Yeah, the porcupine.
The porcupine. And so, a guard goes up, you can't really come near me. I don't even want to be near myself, right? And so I'm no longer in a place of joy. I'm in a place of angst, and
it just feels
hardness and like
prickly.
rigidity.
It just feels prickly.
Right. And so, but it's just becoming consciously aware of when that's happening, because when we can start to build these relationships with the different parts of our being, I think it's just a really empowering way to live our lives.
Well, the other reason why it's empowering, and we always talk about this, hi Kylie, is because in those moments we get triggered and the limbic part of our brain takes over. And that's where the emotions are that feel so strong. And we're not conscious. We're not thinking. So that is our signal. That is the SOS. That is the, know, smoking flame.
1,000%. Yeah. That's it.
So with that said, we hope you have a very happy holiday, however you spend your holiday.
We hope you celebrate it with so much joy.
Yeah.
And can really tap into that part of you that wants to express and receive and offer joy.
And it's contagious. So when you or whoever you're spending holidays with, or however it's being spent, bringing that energy with you into the space gives it away to others also.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year, happy Hanukkah, happy all of the things. Sending you so much love. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have an awesome day.